My name is Dennis Bates. I came to Vietnam in 1969 in the military police. I left in 1971 before my 21st birthday. I have a short story here titled Dark Night. There would be no stars or moon to light the way. They were obliterated by a cover of clouds. There would be no artificial illumination that would betray our position. We would maneuver in darkness like anything I had never ever experienced. This would be my second operation, and my first was not exactly a stellar debut. When we were hiking along a predetermined destination, a shot was fired. I immediately dropped to the ground. I looked around to see where the shot came from and to see if I or anyone else had been hit. In the meantime, the guy behind me almost trampled over me, using a few choice words to explain that shot was an expected signal. Now, if I could only appear not to be so inept and out of place, and the fear that gripped my very being would not be so apparent. After all, it was a lot like camping, but the danger was real, a little like hiking, except we carried guns and ammo. I guess more like hunting, but we could also be hunted. We approached the edge of the river. There were 3 boats waiting. They were dark green open boats called Boston Whalers. They were made of fiberglass. They were unsinkable and powered by Johnson 50 outboard motors. We got on the boat. I remember looking at the life preservers lying about. We were already laden with ammo around our torsos in bandolier style, backpacks, and other essential items. When we got onto the river, one of the boats capsized, hurling its occupants into the dark, opaque, muddy river. 4 men went under. Only 1 resurfaced. There were no shots fired, no bombs exploded, no well-placed lethal enemy device. It was just a calamity of untoward events. I thought, okay, stop everything. Let's look for these guys. Get help. Mission over. That's not what happened. We continued without a hitch. Today, I'm at a triple threat meeting at an annual stand-down event in San Diego, California. I'm listening to participants talk about his futile attempt to save his buddy by carrying him on his back. I see him later at a writing wall. He writes his friend's name with the words, "You will not be forgotten." I am gripped by an overwhelming sadness and inexplicable uneasiness. Then it hits me. It's the names. I don't know the names. A couple of years ago, I participated in an annual reading of names at a local heroes lost or missing in the Vietnam War. That year, they brought a facsimile of the Vietnam Memorial. I stood before the wall reading the names from the list, thinking smugly to myself how awful it would be to come across a name I recognized. What if I came across the name of someone whom I did not know his fate? I thought, then it was a good thing I do not remember any names. In retrospect, the decision I made on that ill-fated night in Vietnam were probably correct, prudent, and expeditious. But in my 19-year-old mind, I only saw an attitude of irreverence to the fallen. We were expendable, and our viability was precarious at best. My survival plan was to disconnect. My solution was to distance myself emotionally from others. In retrospect, this resolution had far-reaching ramifications, many of which plague me to this day. What it also meant was I would face the horrors of the war alone, as I would life with all its intricacies. I would embark upon a life of self-isolation to manage my emotional involvement in the events of the war. I built an invisible wall of defense, sort of like the lines from a Paul Simon song. There's a wall in China, it's 1,000 miles long. To keep out foreigners, they made it strong. And there's a wall around me you can't even see. Those physical and psychological self-preserving decisions I made at that moment of trepidation would be almost impossible to discard. Someone poses a question to me now at stand down. Were the bodies ever found? I can only answer I don't know. Not because I haven't sought answers. I find that in my normal process of recall, my memories of the war are sketchy at best, lacking detail and substance, with the exception of flashbacks. There, the details are vivid, but other elements are skewed. The chronology is fragmented, displaced, and grouped together with unrelated events. To gain treatment and compensation from the VA, certain criteria must be met. The burden of proof is on the veteran. It seems that the veracity of the veteran is in question. My memory is so shadowy, sometimes I wonder if these things really happened. And I hope maybe they were just bad dreams, and I confused them for reality. In my research, I found that they were not the only ones lost in that river. There was a unit dedicated to fishing bodies out of that river. As my tour continued, I would witness other casualties, some senseless and avoidable, and some the result of the havoc of war. Today I look back and I realize I don't remember any real names of one person, or I remember names like Max because he was high all the time, Eppolito from basic because a drill instructor would yell it all the time, Big Reed because of his imposing size and stature, Skinner because I thought it was a cool nickname. The truth is, I remember you three, though vaguely most of the time, but sometime in vivid technicolor and surround sound, and I mourn you constantly. I know that I did not take time to know you well, to hear your stories, to share your fear and hope, to even remember your names, and for that I am sorry for us all.